It's me again. So you should have just watched the video from Diana on staff expectations. And she went over some very important things that we expect of you here. Professionalism was one. You are a professional. Don't let anyone tell you you're just a daycare worker. You're not. You're responsible for children, their education, their lives. You are a professional, and we just require that you act that way at work and away from work. So unfortunately, you are held to a higher standard when you are, even when you're away from work, you can't act unprofessional on social media. A parent may see that and it just doesn't look good. So she touched on all of those things. She touched on dress code. Obviously, just put yourself in a parent's shoes and ask yourself, would you want to see what they're going to see when they pick their child up? And she touched on the cell phone policy. So that's very important also for the safety of kids. And we don't have a no tolerance cell phone policy because we are all adults, but we do have, our first priority is to take care of children. And so that is why we have to have a policy so that we can make sure, it doesn't get out of control. So just be responsible with that. There's nothing worse than having to go tell an adult to get off their phone. So you're working with kids. 1 second lapse in supervision and anything could happen. And think about it this way. I always say, how would you feel as a parent? So if you walk into a classroom to pick up your kid and the teacher is on the phone, that doesn't look very good. Even if you just happen to glance down at it right when they walked up, they don't know that. They may think you've been on it all day. So anyway, just reiterating some points that she touched on. All of this is in your handbook if you need to follow along as we go over it. That's what I would recommend. So what I'm going to touch on now is time and payroll. And this is on page 9 in your handbook. So every staff member will get a number to clock in and out on the tablet up front. And you need to clock in when you get here. You need to clock out for lunch, clock back in for lunch, and clock out when you leave. That's very important. If you're not used to clocking in, then I suggest that recommend that you set a timer on your phone or a reminder on your phone until you get in the habit of it. Clocking in and out is very important. The time cards go directly to our accountant. So if you don't clock in one day, that's not going to be a fun day on payday when you see your check is missing some hours. If for some reason the tablet isn't working, the internet's down, you are rushing, forget, we can go in if you tell us right when it happens and clock you in and kind of correct it. But this can't be an ongoing, every day, forget to clock in and out. So that's just part of your job, clocking in and out. I'm going to go over the paid time off policy in just a minute. So that's something completely separate that's at the back of your handbook. We get paid every Friday for the previous week. So as a new employee, if you started this week, you are not going to get paid until next Friday, because on the Friday we get paid is for the week before. And I'll try to explain this. Every Friday we submit payroll to the accountant. Well, by the time when she puts it in, it doesn't hit our account until the next Friday. So basically you're paid a week behind. And we do direct deposit. So that is in your packet. You'll fill out with your tax forms, your checking account number and everything. And our pay scale goes like this. You start out, if you do not have credentials, you start at $9 an hour. And if you enroll in EDU 119, you go up to $9.50 an hour. Once you complete the course, you go to $10 an hour. And then pay raises occur throughout the year through formal and informal evaluations. So, once you get credentials and get to $10 an hour, the ball's kind of in your court as far as, continue to improve and not just becoming comfortable and doing the same thing every day. I'm not really a everybody gets a trophy kind of person, so I'm not just going to hand out raises because it's April and I said in April we were going to evaluate. It's going to be an honest conversation, and if you didn't earn it, you didn't earn it, and I think that's fair for the people that do earn it, and for everybody to see that, I'm not going to get a raise just by sitting around and not improving my teaching or my classroom or using the resources I have to become a better professional. So that is important as far as the raises go. It's not just a going to happen thing because you've been here for 4 years. You really got to work for it. And I will say, along with raises and pay, this is considered a small business. We're not a franchise. We're not some multi-million-dollar daycare. It's really, hard to. It's a catch-22. I want great employees, and I understand that money keeps people. You have to support your family. I get that, but at the same time, we are on a budget. I mean, payroll is a lot every week. If you saw the numbers, it would probably shock you as far as I didn't even think about it when I first started, but taxes and payroll and workers' comp and all this other stuff you have to pay. So I do want to reward people for doing the right thing, but also I can't just hand it out like, there's an unlimited pot of money somewhere. So it is something that you're going to have to work for. I'm going to go over the paid time off policy now. And like I said, that's at the back of your handbook if you want to flip to that now and kind of follow along, because it is kind of hard if you're just listening to understand it. So basically, paid time off, and I'm just going to summarize, but that is in your handbook. You get a pot of time or a lump of time every year. We do not designate sick, vacation, mental health, any of that. It's just all one big pot of time. If you have been here for 1 to 2 years, then you get 144 hours. If you've been here for 3 to 4 years, you get 152. And if you've been here 5 to 6 years, you get 160 hours. This is for a year. Our years run August to August. Now, you're probably saying, okay, I'm watching this orientation video and I haven't even been here a year. Well, the way we look at that is if you start the year with us in August, then you are considered a 1. So you would get 144 hours starting in August 1st, or the first Monday of August. So you will have a probation period of 90 days when you get started. I may have said that wrong. It may be 60. That'll be in a later video, that you won't get this time. Your lump won't show up. Your pot of time won't show up until after 60 days. However, even if you are brand new, you're still considered a first year. So you would get 144 hours once that probation period ends. Now, to receive this, you have to be a full-time employee, which means 40 hours a week. So here's how kind of it works. So you have 144 hours. You can use them however you please. You can save them. You can schedule a vacation. You can schedule doctor's appointments. You can take your kid, go eat lunch with your kid. You can use it however you want. And we will deduct it from your time, from your pot. And I will suggest that not blowing through it, because then what happens is, oh man, I was really killing it in August and September because the weather was nice, and now in March I've got the flu and I'm out of hours. What am I going to do? So, be responsible with it. When you are out, it does affect the rest of the center. I'm not telling you that so you don't take off or so you feel guilty. You have this time so you can take off, but just be responsible with it. If you can let us know ahead of time, that's great. We can find somebody to fill in for you for the day. But obviously sometimes you're going to wake up sick, or your kid's going to wake up sick that you're not going to be able to tell us about. At that time, you would call me or Diana, and let us know that morning. We will also hit on later, but I'd like to touch on it right now, what being sick means. Sometimes we wake up with a sore throat, and as adults, you just have to take a little ibuprofen and put your big girl pants on and come on to work. Um, Obviously, sometimes you can't do that if you have the fever or flu or whatever, but just be an adult, be responsible, come to work if possible. But if you're contagious and sick, we really don't want you here. So just communicate those things. And I've said be responsible like 6 times, but that's really the key word, and professional. So you have this time, and we'll deduct your hours as you're out. There's a form you can fill out in the office anytime you're out or anytime you're going to be out, and we mark it on the calendar. We deduct it from your time, and each week you accumulate time. So if you've been here for 1 to 2 years, you will accumulate 30 minutes a week to put back in your pot. If you've been here 3 to 4 years, you will accumulate 1 hour a week to put back in your pot. So not only are you given a lump sum, but you're kind of earning it as the year goes on. The accruing will start the second week in August. Now, if for some reason you're terminated, you will be paid for, or you put in a notice and leave, you'll be paid for any accrued time. So not the original 144 hours, but any time that you have earned yourself since the second week in August is what you will be paid for. You can carry this time over year to year. So if you don't need to use it all this year, that's fine. If you know you're going to get pregnant next year, save your time. There is a cap on the accruing. So as what people cannot do is just keep accruing time, never take any off, and then have like 5 years sitting in the pot and decide to leave. That can't happen. So if you've been here 1 to 2 years, your cap is 194 hours. So once you accrue 50 hours from your original amount, the accruing stops until you use some, and then it'll start back. For 3 to 4 year employees, the cap is 202. So basically that just kind of puts a limit on how high you can get before you actually have to use some of your time. We will have a binder in the office that we keep up with this, but I also suggest you keep up with it on your own. We can be wrong. So, you should have an aha moments binder that you keep up with anything that's handed out, any staff meetings, your time. We always pass those out at the beginning of the year. So you should definitely use that and keep up with this time as well. Make a copy every time you fill out a slip. Start you a little table where you're deducting your time, and we'll come around every month and make sure those match up. But we are human, and keeping up with 15 different employees' times can sometimes get confusing. So I'm not saying we're perfect. We definitely can mess up. So I recommend that you keep up with that also. If, like I said before, if you can schedule it, then that is what should happen. You also are not allowed to take more than 1 week at a time unless it's for a family emergency, a sickness, a pregnancy, something like that. You can't just build up time and then say, I want the whole summer off. So we do this 1 week max at a time because obviously everybody wants some time off, and we can't let everybody off at the same time. Also, if you're out for 3 or more days in a week, you would not accrue any time for that week. So you got to work at least 3 days to get the additional time added to your bank for that week. Let's see what else. If you are planning something ahead of time, you will just fill out this form in the office. It's labeled on a shelf, and we will approve it. Now, we don't want you to get offended if it doesn't get approved, because we, like I said, cannot have 7 people out at one time. It's first come, first serve. We can't let 2 teachers in the same classroom be out on the same day. So if you know you have a Disney vacation scheduled for next October, then that's not something that is going to sneak up on you. So you need to go ahead and let us know so we can get it on the calendar. I think that is probably the gist of the paid time off schedule. And when we do our beginning of the year orientation as a group in August, you will get this with your specific time on it, how many years you've been here, and it'll be like specific for you that you can put in your binder and that you can keep up with. So if you have any questions about, specific questions about when you can be out, what does that mean, see us. But this is kind of a summary of how we do time and how we keep up with it, payroll, and make sure you have those forms in your packet for taxes and direct deposit.